Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, always, Kimberly McNabb. Well, we have completed all but two of the 2024 major presidential candidates, and here we have President Joe Biden. Let's go ahead and watch his re-election video.
Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy.
This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms. Cutting Social Security.
Not true.
That you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy. Dictating what healthcare decisions women can make. Banning books and telling people who they can love. All while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent.
No, we're going to stop it here just because we don't want to get a copyright strike because we're not familiar with the music that's being used in President Biden's re-election video. But
plus, there's some points to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I love how he starts off with the January 6th stuff. Like, hey, we don't want to relive that day, I think is the main point he's trying to get across. But he emphasizes freedom.
Right.
Did you feel not free? I mean, other than the COVID restrictions, do you feel less free?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did. And, you know, one of the big things is says more choices, not less choices. And here we have, you know, an opportunity where parents have really risen up in the past 2 years to talk about education and parental rights. And, you know, that seems to have gone by the wayside. As far as freedoms go, you know, economic freedom, that's declined.
I don't feel economically free at all.
Right.
At all. You know, for instance, one of my favorite drinks, it's my white trash energy drink, Diet Mountain Dew. You could get the 6-pack at Walmart just 2 years ago at standard price, $2.48. Now it's $4.98.
Yeah. I mean, that's called inflation, folks.
Yeah, so that's just a small sample size of how expensive groceries are. And so it impacts everything. And so we don't go on vacation anymore. We don't buy clothes anymore, except for the kids, of course. Freedom. When there are parents in certain places in the country where they're not supposed to know what's going on with their kids' school, they're not free to know those things.
And I think it was a little disingenuous as well for the Social Security cuts. During his State of the Union address, President Biden said that Republicans were cutting Social Security benefits, and there was a lot of boos. And then he stopped his speech and he goes, "Can I get a commitment from the Republicans that you're not cutting Social Security?" And he got a whole standing ovation. So it's disingenuous to say that Republicans want to cut Social Security. Now, what they are saying is that there are problems for Social Security and things have to change in order to make sure that people receive the benefits that they paid for. But that has been a Democrat problem and a Republican problem for decades and decades.
Plus, if they don't do something, everyone's going to lose their Social Security.
Exactly.
I am not counting on it at all by the time I get old enough.
Right. And as far as voting rights, he's saying, making it
who
harder.
has lost their voting rights?
No one has lost their voting rights. No one has lost their voting rights. Election integrity is important, and voter ID laws. I mean, you have to show your ID to get on an airplane. You have to show your ID to buy a box of Sudafedrin.
I bought kids' cough syrup the other day.
Right.
Had to show my ID.
Right. All right, let's keep going so that we can look at this. We'll stop it at probably about 2 more times, just because of copyright limitations.
That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country.
Thank you for choosing us.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment.
All right, so right there we saw Joe Biden at his maximum sprint and the maximum distance that he can run, and they had to film that. They're like, "Look, we can only have one take of this." So we wanted to stop it there so you could see what Biden's burst of speed is, and then he had to take a nap.
Well, maybe that is why the little powder was found in the White House. Maybe that was the amphetamine or whatever they were going to give him for that shot.
Maybe.
But
so you get that burst.
Yeah, I've heard a joke on Ruthless podcast. They refer to Joe Biden in his normal pace as Roomba. He's just constantly wondering, like,
right.
like, I'm not sure where to go. I'm not sure where to go. But I wanted to comment on, before we stopped the last time, love who we want to love. I'm sorry, gay marriage is legal.
Yeah.
Has been legal since Obama. So, again, disingenuous right there.
Love whoever you want to love. That's fine.
Yeah, we don't care.
As long as it doesn't harm somebody, you can't violate
two consenting
stalking
adults
orders
don't care.
and things like that. But love whoever you want to love.
But he also said, I know America. I'm like, dude, you've been in politics since you were 29 years old. You haven't worked a real job since at least 29 years old.
Right.
You're out of touch. You haven't
Right.
had real problems since then. You've only encountered people who also were senators or maybe GOP people, but you've been in a bubble for 50 years. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm calling
and
BS.
have had a staff.
I'm calling complete
and
BS.
had a complete staff to kind of do everything for you for.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time you had to clean your own toilet? Never.
Right. Well, we're all equal. Yes, we are. We're all equal.
But we're not the same.
But we're not the same, and everybody has different wants and needs, and depending
priorities
upon where you are in life, are you young? Are you in the middle of your career? Or at the end of your career? So everybody has different things. So there's the old adage. That if you're under the age of 30 and you're not a Democrat, you don't have a heart. If you're over the age of 30 and you're not a Republican, you don't have a brain. All right. So, I mean, this is one of those things where he's just, throwing some dog whistles out there. He's pulling on heartstrings, but it doesn't put food in people's plates.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it is. So we'll keep going.
We, the people, will not decide. God love you.
So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can. Because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
Okay, so
I will say he has beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, is that his handwriting?
Well, I'm assuming. I don't know. I mean, it may look like an epileptic Parkinson. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
The handwriting used was beautiful penmanship, and the music was very, like, oh yeah, I'm,
So,
get you fired
so
up.
I completely agree with you. The video was excellently done. Chris Christie, get a video. You're way up behind in the polls, but get a video.
I mean, whoever their marketer, they use the video editor, like that same person, like did everyone's video. We would be very torn on who to use.
Yeah, exactly. It is a well done video. It's got great camera angles. It's got great music. It cuts correctly. It's very well edited. And
feel good imagery and whatnot.
And it's present. So those political candidates that do not have just an intro video that is easily accessible immediately upon going to your website, I think it's a political fail. There's just a few candidates that didn't happen with, but it needs to be present. But one of the things that I disagree with, we had a video that actually two videos. Jill Stein's video that we did. We'll put a link here, and Vivek Ramaswamy's video, and we'll put a link there to their videos. They were not able to be monetized because there was music that was in them. Now, these are my thoughts on it. This is obviously getting off the Joe Biden, but here's my thoughts on it. If it's a political video used for a public election that is going on the national level, I don't think you should be able to play the videos without any copyright issues whatsoever, because this is an elected office.
Public knowledge.
It's public knowledge, but we did stop this 3 times because we wanted to make sure that we were able to get this video to you. The Stein and the Ramaswamy videos had some issues, but we played the campaign videos, the official campaign video, in its entirety. So anyway, we just wanted to do that administrative note. But Joe Biden
says finish the job.
Finish the job.
Do we want to continue the last 3 years? That trajectory in all aspects of life? I'm sorry, that's a scary thought for me.
I will be very surprised. I will be very, very surprised if when we get to the general election and we have Joe Biden as the presumptive nominee, and we have a Republican candidate as the nominee. We don't know who that's going to be. The polls are changing all the time. Currently, the front runner is Donald Trump. But I would be shocked if the Republican candidate did not echo the words of Ronald Reagan when he was debating Jimmy Carter and talked to the camera and said, "You need to ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?" All right.
Yeah. So think 2019. How well off were you?
Yeah. Well, 2020 is what I would say. Or 2000.
Well, I'm backing out the pandemic.
Right. Okay. But still, if you ask that question, undoubtedly there is no defense that the Democrat nominee, at this point it's probably going to be Joe Biden, is going to be able to make that you are better off than you were 4 years ago.
Yep.
And so I challenge any Republican candidate to recycle that line. But let's talk about his economic record. I mean,
yep.
here
Let's
we are
start it
talking
off with economic record,
because that's what we're talking about. Are you
and
better off?
That affects everyone.
It sure does.
Some people like to go to the abortion issue, or they like to go to trans issues. Those don't affect absolutely everyone, but everyone has to buy groceries.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that affects all of us. So when we hear economic inflation numbers, people are like, "Oh, inflation's going down, it's going down." That's just the rate at which things are climbing. And you have to think the numbers that they're trying to gaslight us with do not include food. That's to me, that's the most important one. And so food inflation, 2017, it was 0.9%. 0.9%. 2018, 1.4%. Versus 2021, 3.9%. 2022, 9.9%, which feeds back into my white trash energy drink, Diet Mountain Dew at Walmart. So, and then, overall inflation numbers, 21, it was 4.7. 2022, 8%. They usually shoot for an overall inflation number of just 2%.
Well,
so,
I mean, to your point, Kimberly,
and that's at rate per year, going up over the previous year.
right? And to your point, Kimberly, the Biden administration, when they're touting that administration is coming down,
They don't mean the prices are going down.
they don't mean the prices are coming down. The rate of inflation is coming down. So the prices continue to rise. It's the rate of inflation is going down.
So instead of going up like this, it's going up like
it's still going up, though. It's still going up. And
Yes.
so, I think the famous Mark Twain quote about statistics is there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. All right. So you can get statistics to say anything you want. And so when you disingenuously say,
you back out food. I mean,
Yeah,
come on. If it's saying 8%, what's it really?
I mean, so you have, the person that has to pay more when they're buying a Ferrari, that's included in the numbers, but a single mom with 3 kids going out and buying staples, bread, milk, cheese, butter and peanut butter and things like that, that's still going up. It hasn't gone down. And so, who's affected more? I'd say it's the single mom with the 3 kids.
Yep, it's a higher percentage of her income. And also another way of putting the inflation numbers is like, okay, last year I gained 50 pounds, but this year I only gained 10. You still gain weight.
Right. You gained less weight.
Yes, but you're still heavier than you want to be.
Right. Yeah.
And then another statistic that they like to tout is, under Joe Biden, they've created 13.25 million jobs. But we need to remember during the lockdowns under COVID, 22 million, 9 million more jobs were lost. So really, you could just say we're recovering
That's exactly
some of the jobs, but we're still negative 9 million jobs.
Yeah, jobs are not being created, they're being replaced. It's getting back to the status quo. So it's
Absolutely.
disingenuous. Instead of saying created, they should say we've rehired this amount of people.
And most of those jobs were lost in like a year and a half, and
Right.
we've had 3 years to replace those jobs, and we're still 9 million short.
Yeah, and really, it's also not. I mean, we have all these new Gen Z and millennial things, the quiet quitting and the job surfing and things like that, where companies just went crazy with their salaries and their compensation and things like that in order to lure workers back because there was this hyper competitive hiring going on, but now that's all cooled. That's all cooled because the economy has caught up with that, and people are not purchasing as much, and so all of that stuff is, well, I'm only gonna work the hours that I was originally, nothing extra. I'm not gonna do anything like that. Working's hard, but
they need to realize those inflation numbers also affect businesses. So
Right.
their costs for printer ink is going up. Gas and company cars is going out. So if you're not proving yourself to be valuable, you might want to reconsider the coffee tagging or whatever it's called.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But so that just goes to this job. It's a little disingenuous, and it's easy to spin. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for the press secretary to get up there and spend all of these numbers, but you have to realize that you haven't gotten back to zero yet, and then created the jobs. So that's just reality. There is no spin on that. Now, what about the middle class incomes, Kimberly?
In 2022, middle class median income fell 2.2%, meaning $2,000 poorer than January 2021.
Which is huge.
But there was actually a $6,000 increase in median house income under Trump per the Census Bureau.
Right, and that's a nonpartisan. So when we say these numbers, we're not putting a spin. We're just using data from the Census Bureau, which is an independent organization. It's nonpartisan. Mm-hmm. So again, you'll hear me say this a number of times during this video. Are you better off now than where you were 4 years ago?
Yeah. So you can use the feel good lines, but your wallet doesn't care. Who says the feel-good lines or what those lines are. And one of the feel-good lines that I hear used is, "Oh, income inequality has decreased since January 2021." Well, guess what? There are two ways to work that. You can either keep the rich where they are and make the poorer richer, or you can keep the poor poor and make the rich poorer. And that is what is actually occurring. So yes, they are coming more into the middle, but the poor are still poor.
Yeah, ideally,
You want to raise all boats.
You want to raise all boats. You want to make the poor people richer. You want to make the middle class richer, and you want to make the rich richer. That's really what you want to do.
The thing people fail to think about is rich people hire people. They hire them, and I don't mean just to come clean their house or to cater their, little Christmas party or whatever. I mean, they increase employees at their businesses, and they buy more stuff, and that's more income for the people that are selling the Ferraris on commission or whatever it is.
Or they start new businesses.
Yeah, or they decide to finally take a leap into a new business and hire more people. So it affects everybody.
Right. I agree. So let's talk about his foreign record. So honestly, he looks weak to foreign leaders. He's got a history of choosing the weakest path.
Yeah, and that's all throughout his senator career as a senator. I mean, come on. One of his first acts was to withdraw from Afghanistan and left billions of dollars of equipment there. Well, it's not just rotting in the middle of a desert. I mean, the Taliban is going to scoop that up.
Right.
Either use it, or if it's not usable, they're going to re-engineer it. And guess what? Probably 20 years from now, we'll be fighting our old equipment.
Yeah, I mean, that's just absolutely crazy. When I was in Afghanistan, we had a number of forward operating bases, FOBs, that are everywhere. And you'd have anywhere from a platoon to a company-sized element, sometimes a battalion-sized element at these forward operating bases, and they'd be scattered around the provinces. And HESCO barriers would be built, and they'd have defensive structures and barracks and things like that. Well, when units no longer decided to occupy those FOBs, those forward operating bases, and consolidated or moved or whatever, the Taliban would move in. To those FOBs and have U.S. built defensive fortifications just left for them. And so when we have to go back and retake that terrain, we'd have to fight against our own defenses. Now, we have air power and helicopters and stuff like that, so we're able to do it. But still, it was very ironic that we built up these areas and then the Taliban got to utilize it. And it's the same thing, to your point, Kimberly, with the military equipment. Whether or not it was demilitarized, maybe or not, but a lot of it is in good working order. A lot of it, because the Afghan army had it, and they were utilizing it. And so if they just left it, we didn't destroy the Afghan National Army's equipment, just they capitulated. And, it's just the staggering amount of money that Joe Biden left there is just
How would
weakness.
you have done the withdrawal, or would you have done it at all? Because I know, we still have bases in, Germany and Japan, these places that we fought in World War II. We have bases there.
Yeah. So we'll put a video that we did the Afghan withdrawal two years later. But what I would have done is a phased withdrawal. And we're definitely on the topic of Biden, but I would have done a phased withdrawal, and I'll just go over this quickly. There were 5 regional commands: Regional Command North, South, East, West, and Central. Central is where Kabul was, the capital. And what I would have done is I would have withdrawn out of one of the regional commands, and I would have seen what happened.
Yeah.
Right. So it's called a phased withdrawal. And rather than leave all the locations all in the same go, I would have left one and seen if the Afghan National Army could have held their own in that one regional command. And if they could, then you do a phased withdrawal from another regional command. And then obviously the last one you would leave is RC Central, which was the Kabul capital. But I think to do a complete withdrawal all in one go was probably the bad move.
Yeah, and I can just imagine how much China and Russia were laughing at us. I mean,
what it
seeing that
demonstrated,
horrible withdrawal. I mean, come on.
Yeah, what it demonstrated is that
we're vulnerable and poor leadership and
Well, there's
time
that,
to attack.
but it shows that we abandon our allies,
Yeah.
when they need it most.
So it made our allies look weak too, and so then Ukraine.
It was a credibility.
Ukraine
It was a
happened.
credibility issue. Now, when the bodies were coming off the planes, as a veteran, I thought it was beyond disrespectful when those flag draped coffins were coming off the planes, and Joe Biden is looking at his watch. Now, was he saying, this is really boring? How long do you think this is going to take? Is he saying, hey, I've got a tea time to get to? Is he saying, I'm meeting the president of Russia or Germany? Who knows? But what it looks like
Is he's bored.
is that he's bored, and how long is this going to take?
So again, foreign leaders are probably looking at it like, this guy doesn't know how to plan, doesn't stand by his allies, and doesn't give a crap about people who died under his command.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Not saying that that's exactly what happened, but that's what it looks like, and sometimes perception is reality.
Yep. And to make matters worse, he loosened sanctions on Iran, which, as he should have known, funds Hamas, Hezbollah. He declassified the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. Like, why on earth would you do that? Oh, no, they're all nice all of a sudden. And this, like, you're giving money to people who you know are going to attack you.
Yeah,
You should know that.
I mean, when we talk about the hostage negotiation or the prisoner negotiation or captivity negotiation, whatever you want to call it, and when we gave money to Iran in order to get U.S. citizens back, but there was this giant promise that Iran said, well, it won't be used to fund terrorism. We'll make sure that Qatar will make sure. It's just kind of funny.
It's kind of like giving matches to an arsonist and making them say, "I pinky swear I'm not going to burn down the barn."
Burn anything down. and we've talked about this ad nauseum when we said, look, there is an easy way to do accounting tricks. If you have a budget and your budget to your education is $6 million or $600 million, whatever it is, and you don't give them the budget, but you take that $600 million and you use the education money for terrorism, but then you take the $6 billion that you get for hostage release and you use that for education, all you've done is change the dollars.
Well, yeah, it's like getting a free pizza coupon, like, hey, I don't have to pay for dinner tonight. Now I can pay for a bottle of wine or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
all it was an accounting change in order to use the money for terrorism. And very shortly, soon after, we had the Hamas attacks, who were funded by Iran.
we knew they were funded by Iran
against Israel.
Yeah,
Is that a coincidence?
it's just astounding.
I mean, absolutely just astounding. So now Chinese spy balloons. So here we have Biden is always continuously talking about that he wants to be a competitor on equal footing with China, and China does not have reciprocity on that. China does not want to be a competitor of the United States. China wants to dominate its sphere of influence, the Asia-Pacific area, and the world. They do not want the United States of America to be the leader of the world post-2050. They really don't. And so
also, we keep giving them everything they could possibly
and
want.
they're
like,
stealing.
Oh, fly all over our country and then wait until they've crossed to shoot it down. Why?
Yeah, I
Why?
mean, we just have to realize that China is.
What good are they doing for us by flying over us? Nothing.
No, they're spying is what they're doing. It wasn't an errant weather balloon. They're spying, and as I've said before, I think this is
get some good old-fashioned lawn darts.
A practice, for contingency operations. If they shoot down our spy satellites and we shoot down their spy satellites, they're going to have a backup plan to be able to do spying and intelligence collection over us. So this is all practice. It seems benign, but it's not.
I wonder what would happen if we tried to do that to them. I think World War III would happen.
Yeah, I mean they'd shoot it down in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be a.
It wouldn't make it within 10 miles
No.
of their coastline.
Absolutely not. So Biden keeps trying to think that China is a competitor, and they're not. They are an enemy. It's a new Cold War, and the Biden administration hasn't realized that it's happened yet.
Yeah, and they just keep giving the keys to the kingdom away with their energy and manufacturing, and now the spy intelligence. I mean, what else could they possibly want?
Right. Now, Ukraine. Obviously, Biden, I'm pro what Biden is doing as far as supporting Ukraine. I think that we need to support Ukraine because if we don't, and I know there's a lot of detractors out there, but if we don't support Ukraine, Russia has said Poland is next. Latvia is next. Estonia is next. And so by supporting Ukraine and giving them the things that they need to do, we're preventing of greater conflict in which the United States would have to partake in because all those countries are NATO
Putin
allies.
says he's going to do something, we need to believe him. I remember when Trump said something to the effect, oh, Putin's smart. You can admit someone who's smart and still think they're evil. But everyone's like, oh, Trump's praising Putin. Where are those voices when Putin says he's going to invade Poland? Like,
right.
they're silent. Now, and we've discussed our strategy would be very different regarding Ukraine. Like, from the get-go, I mean, I think they attacked because they saw that Joe Biden was weak with the Afghanistan withdrawal. Then Ukraine was attacked. So, me, when we move into a new house, I go nuclear, full nuclear on bugs. Before we move in, I bug bomb the place. I spray the yard. I am scorched earth. That is the initial approach we should have given day one with all the artillery, send people over there to train, them how to use the equipment, like immediately. That way, it just would send a huge signal to Putin, like, holy crap, what did I do?
Right.
Instead of this drawn-out little trickle effect. I mean, that's not scary.
The biggest
Give some time
mistake.
to regroup and stuff.
The biggest mistake the Biden administration did in Ukraine was trickle in equipment.
And the only way to fix it now, and I don't think we have the means to do it anymore because we've been trickling, spending, bullet here, bullet here, essentially, that we don't have enough supply to bombard
right
all at once.
I mean, ultimately, what Ukraine needed was complete MTO complete brigade combat teams with all of the enablers, all the combat vehicles, all the support staff to do that, all of the Patriot, all of the ATACMS Block 2 Alphas. We should have given everything that they needed all in one go, along with the
like
training.
This is literally everything right now.
But trickling it in, they use it, and then
like one-time package.
then Russia, they come up with a countermeasure for it, and then we trickle something in, and then they come up with a countermeasure.
Well, plus we wouldn't be arguing about it 2 years now from Congress, like trying to attach it to this bill or that bill. The conversation would be done.
Yep. All right. Now, what about the Paris Climate Accord?
So Trump got out of it when under his presidency, and that saved millions of jobs. Well, of course, Biden rejoined it, so costing millions of jobs.
I mean, the problem with this was that countries such as China and India were not held to the same standard as all the other countries. Now, China's argument is we need to continue to build coal-fired plants. We need to continue to ramp up our
global warming,
our CO2, because we haven't caught up to the developed nations yet. So we need to continue to raise our pollution rates. Everybody else needs to cut down, but we get to go further. And
so we shoot ourselves in the foot to help them.
Yeah. So we're growing their economy, we're hurting ours, and there's no change to the pollution. It'd be one thing.
He's supposed to be the American president, not the Indian president, not the Chinese president, our president.
Exactly. And the problem that we have here is that the rates aren't going to go down if countries go down voluntarily, but countries go up voluntarily. That's called a zero-sum game. There's
also
there's
American energy. Yes, it pollutes, but we're more efficient in our CO2 emission levels. China doesn't care.
Right.
It's just whatever's cheapest, fastest. They don't care how much it pollutes. So it's better to do it here, and we get to keep the jobs.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on the immigration record.
Well, first 100 days. Everyone likes to tell, I did this on the first 100 days. Well, Biden halted deportations, stopped the remain in Mexico, which I'm sorry, but if you are in true need of being safe, where you're coming from, whatever danger you're fleeing, Mexico should still be a better solution than staying in, Uganda or somewhere like that. So I don't see what was wrong with that policy. He ended, asylum case review. I'm like, come on, we need to know who these people are. If someone's coming into your house, you want to know who they are. He cut border security funding. He ended Title 42, which I think was a COVID protocol.
Right.
Come on, like you wanted Americans to get vaccinated, but all the illegal immigrants from these countries, we don't know if they have COVID or not. Come on in. That doesn't make any sense.
That was a big thing. Is why are we requiring Americans to get vaccinated to do certain things, whether to be in the military, to be a police officer, to be a government official, when migrants coming in don't have to be vaccinated?
Yeah. It's like, what? You want us to save our grandma, but their grandma, who cares?
Well, or they're bringing in diseases of themselves and upping.
Yeah, because not every country vaccinates against all the diseases like we do.
Right.
Let's see. He also limited ICE's enforcement activities.
Mm-hmm.
And, this isn't just to kick people out. It also affects kids.
Right.
Like in 2022, Homeland Security couldn't get in touch with 20,000 sponsors of unaccompanied minors. Under Trump, it was just 2,000. So 10 times more sponsors. Again, you want to know who's taking care of kids. If you're taking care of kids, people should be able to get in contact with you.
Right.
Under Biden, 10 times more couldn't get in touch with them. So you don't know what they're doing with these kids. Nothing.
And the cartels have really just turned on the afterburners as far as human trafficking.
Oh yes.
Since 2021, cartels have made $13 billion in human trafficking alone. In 2018, it was $500 million.
With an M.
Yeah, this is crazy.
So that's 26 times more money just in human trafficking alone. In the span of 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's according to Homeland Security.gov.
And to be absolutely clear, the Biden administration, including the press secretary, there is nothing going wrong with the border.
Nothing unusual. It's normal.
There is
no
open border.
26 times more money in human trafficking. That's not including fentanyl and nothing else. And then, we also have people on the terror watch list. Barrett, remind everyone how many terrorists it took to do 9/11.
It was,
19? 19 terrorists, just 19. That's not that many people. 151 people on the terrorist watch list were stopped. Just the people we know about at the border in 2023. And only 3 in 2020. And a big fat 0 in 2019, where the Border Patrol had more money, had more resources to catch people.
Yeah, and when we talk about this, it is not. We're not talking about Hispanic people from Guatemala that are on these watch lists. We're talking about bad guys that are coming from countries,
and they've already done bad things. That's why they're on the watch list.
Right. So we're not talking about a mom and her 2 kids that want a better life. We're talking about people that want to do America harm, and they see the border as an easy way to get in there.
Yep. Well, another issue close to my heart, and this is another issue that should affect everyone, because if our kids are educated, they're going to come work for you one day, or they're going to come take care of you in the nursing home. So everyone should care about it. And really, the main thing that he touts about education is just forgiving student loan debt. When our test scores are so bad, we're testing so much worse than the rest of the world, I think there's more to address in education than just the student loan debt.
Right.
So he tried to, erase $10,000 worth of student loan debt.
And $20,000 if you were on a Pell Grant.
Oh, yes, exactly. And now, fortunately, it was shot down by the Supreme Court.
Well, I mean,
tried to restart it again.
Here's straight up. President Biden is trying to buy votes.
Yes, I mean that's all it's about. And we live in an era where we don't teach people consequences anymore. Come on, you take out a loan for a house, you have to repay it back. You chose to go to an expensive school, you have to pay it back. I mean, it's as simple as that.
And got a degree in women's studies. I mean, it's one thing if you're an engineer, aerospace engineer, electrical engineer, you've got debt and you go find a job. But I think a lot of the problem is a student will take out a loan for a bachelor degree, and then they immediately go and take out a loan for a master's degree, and then immediately go and take out a loan for a PhD, and they haven't gotten a job. They've deferred all this debt, and now they have a PhD, a master's, and a bachelor's that they have to pay back, and they don't have a job.
Yeah,
and they're complaining about debt, and it's
also they wasted a lot of time too.
Yeah.
I mean, at least students should look at it that way. Like, what's worth my time?
But it's been struck down by the Supreme Court correctly that you just can't arbitrarily just eliminate student debt. But that was a big campaign promise that Biden promised and could not deliver, and he did it because he was buying votes. Yeah. That's straight up what he was saying. I mean.
Well, one thing that seems a little more agreeable to me is he was pushing for free 2-year school, which are more trade schools. And I mean, come on. I mean, there are plumbers making what, $60 an hour?
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
I'd go.
Well worth it.
If I were, I don't know. If I were a man, I would probably go for that. But that was shot down as well. And then one of his policies when he was running last time is he's not for school choice. But then again, he was talking about freedom.
Right.
I mean, there should be freedom of school choice for kids. I agree. I think. So under him, U.S. Department of Education issued a notice for Title IX to change to adopt students' pronouns.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And here's the why. Here's the why. So you talk about gender issues and the LGBTQ plus community. They talk about in their language that gender is fluid. Okay, so
whatever happened to personality?
Yeah,
or mood?
Exactly. So, with the pronouns being fluid and mandating that you adhere to these pronouns, people are changing them all the time. How is the normal person supposed to keep up if there's legislation that says you're supposed to use somebody's pronouns when the gender is fluid and things like that?
Well, also, I have a hard enough time remembering people's names. Like,
right.
I get frustrated enough with the hyphenated names. Like, dude, I barely care about your first name, and now you want me to add a hyphenated name and a pronoun on top of that? Like, dude, I don't care. I don't like you that much.
Yeah, and there's just been so many gaffes as well. So he had the gay pride celebration on the White House lawn, and then
people are showing their scars. I mean, that's not
their
very
transition
dignified.
Scars. Yeah, and I mean,
he wants to talk about the chaos of January 6th. I mean, sorry, a bunch of people showing scars on the White House lawn is pretty chaotic.
Yeah, and disrespectful.
Yes.
Disrespectful. But that was a self-inflicted wound by inviting that particular community that is very flamboyant. What did they think was going to happen? That somebody wasn't going to post on TikTok. Yeah. But as far as electability goes, he is way down in the polls. He is way down in the polls. And in fact, he's has the lowest approval ratings at this point, even more so than Trump. And half the country hates Trump, and more people hate Biden than Trump at this point in time.
I think people are seeing the issues that affect everyone, like the economics. And they're just like, I can't keep paying this month. I can't this much for everything. I can't afford to pay $11,000 more a year for the same thing, and it's probably just going to get worse. One thing that his campaign staff is doing right now is they've set up staff to police misinformation online, and they're assigned to talk about how scary Trump is. I think that's that and the basement strategy.
Right.
So like last time, because how much campaigning has he done?
Well, what's really
besides a good video, very little.
Right. So especially since his interview with Charlemagne the God during his initial run, where he said, if you're trying to figure out whether or not to vote for me or the other guy, you ain't black. Now, Charlemagne the God has said that he is not supporting the Biden administration, and he regrets supporting the Biden administration for 2020, but he is definitely not supporting the Biden-Harris administration this time around. And interestingly enough, young black and young Hispanic voters are disillusioned with Biden, and the polling is saying they're not going to vote for him. Now, the polling is not going, they're not going to go vote for Trump. They're voting for this guy, RFK Jr. And it's amazing that people don't talk about RFK Jr. We have a video here that you can look at, and we're going to do a follow-up. But in some areas, he is polling at 20%, and it is not being reported by the mainstream media. And so we are definitely going to do another video. But young black and Hispanic people are not looking to support Biden this time, and they're also not looking to support Trump. They're looking to vote for RFK Jr. And does that really help? But it helps Trump because it hurts Biden. It takes votes away.
Well, there are arguments. Some people say it can hurt Trump as well. But I don't want people to get too comfortable with polling.
Right.
Because, Trump was doing very well 2020, and then Biden got elected. So you just don't know. But I do encourage people to do their research.
Absolutely.
And, you just mentioned Biden telling Charlemagne the God, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That's not the only racist thing he said. He has he's had a 50-year political career, so it's easy to Google up some racist things that he has said. And the lies, multiple lies. I mean, from the gross exaggeration with the kitchen fire that he told the Hawaii residents, the lie he told about getting arrested, trying to see Mandela. He was nowhere near there. I mean,
the travel on Amtrak he did.
Oh yeah, and that he drove an 18-wheeler when he really drove a school bus. He's trying to relate to the truck drivers. That he was at the World Trade Center right after the planes landed into it. No, he was in D.C. at that period of time.
Right.
I mean, just on and on and on. It's like, come on, man.
Well, I mean, the very famous this Bidenomics, and he has that video where he's talking about Bidenomics, and he whispers, "It's working," and no.
If it were working, you wouldn't even have to say it.
You wouldn't have to say it. People would be just like championing Bidenomics all the time. And the common thing that the administration says is, well, you just don't understand.
Really? You're going to gaslight us? Okay, so...
You don't get it. You're not smart enough to get it.
So he's telling Charlemagne the God he's not smart enough to think for himself. He's got to, he's black. He's got to vote a certain way. And now telling everyone else... you don't understand basic economics.
Right. I mean, and really what he's trying to do is he's also saying, I have to protect the country from democracy. If if Trump wins, democracy
from
dies.
democracy or for democracy? Used the word from.
Yeah, I mean, we clearly, his administration is has conveniently timed prosecutions that are going on from the Department of Justice against President Trump. Now, whether or not he's guilty of these, the timing
They've
is...
had 3 years. Some of the stuff, I mean, yes, I agree. Trump is guilty of some of it. I'm like, it's frivolous, but yeah, it's hard to dispute timing.
Yeah, the timing is just horrible, and really all it's doing is feeding this conspiracy theory that the Biden administration is trying to remove Trump, not because they think they can beat him in a head up mashup, but because if we can eliminate him via litigation, then we don't even have to worry about facing him in the general election.
Well, whoever you vote for, we encourage you to, do your research and, don't vote for someone just because they're not Trump.
Right.
Vote for them because you think they're the best person. Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.